He is only one of two people in the world, two people sa buong daigdig, who was personally mentored by Zig Ziglar for 17 years. And in his corporation, he embarked on a career of facilitating workshops and seminars all over the world. He is also an accomplished author, having written 4 books. One of his books is available at the back, so you can buy it later. And he is currently the global ambassador for the Zig Ziglar group of companies and the brand ambassador for Go Ambition to teach us about how to effectively sell our products. Let's give a warm Kerygma Conference welcome to Mr. Krish Dhanam!
Well, thank you for that warm welcome, which I so richly deserve, but so seldom get. When people introduce me, I always feel like I'm at my funeral, because they're only saying nice things about me. But I want to reintroduce myself to you as a salesman, but let me reintroduce myself to you the best way I know how. I'm an Indian by birth, an American by choice, a husband by union, a father by blessing, and a speaker because I failed at everything else. But one of the things you'll realize very quickly about me is that I'm a business philosopher and a corporate evangelist, which means the ideas and precepts I give you are built on the tri-dimensional nature of man. How many of you are in sales? How many of you will not raise your hands no matter what the question? I just want to check on that. Raise your right hand for me again like this. Now bring it slowly and put it on your chin. See, the chin is this pointed thing at the end of the face. And you ignored everything I said and followed exactly what I did. The reason is you have conditioned yourself to react to that which you see instead of respond to that which you believe. There are basically 5 principles in selling. That no matter what you sell or how you sell, whether it's relationships or consulting, these 5 principles will work. First, selling is a process. It is not an event. You do not transact with somebody because they pay you a commission or your organization asks you to do something. You transact with somebody so that they will get the benefit of what you sold. Some of the customers that I had the privilege of selling in the 90s still use the product I offered them. But the commission I was paid is long gone. Which simply means selling is not what you do to someone, it's what you do for someone. My friend, selling is either the easiest working, most lucrative profession or the hardest working, most frustrating one. Most people wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and say, mirror, mirror on the wall, do I have a prayer at all? If the mirror ever told you to go back to bed, listen to the mirror. If we walk out in this world looking like the picture on our driver's license, nobody's going to buy anything from us. If you're happy, tell your face. Most people look like the cruise director for the Titanic and are wondering why they can't make a difference. Selling is a process. It is a lifelong journey. It is the relationships you build today that will empower you 10, 15 years down the road. I cannot tell you how many people have moved with me, even though I moved products. First thing, understand, it is a transference of feeling. Now the second thing you have to understand is that selling requires both the head and the heart. You have to think your way through what you offer in terms of the logic of your product, its benefits, its features, its functions, its characteristics. But you also have to feel your way. Which means the first appointment every morning has to be with yourself, not with a client. See, I still wake up at 4:30 or 5 every morning and I've been lecturing around the globe for 20 years. Because that day, that audience is the only people I will sell to that day. Just because I've done the talk 1,000 times doesn't mean I don't prepare. I prepared my notes for you today, even though I have done this before. You have to realize that there is that connection between the head and the heart. Let me give you a beautiful story that explains that. I had the privilege of meeting Mother Teresa in 1994. I went to her ashram in Calcutta. I gave her a donation of $500, and like most of you will do, I wanted a picture. Now Mother Teresa looked at me and said, I don't do this for publicity. And I thought to myself, wow, that's pretty cool, but I need a picture. I asked her 5 times because that's what a good salesman does. But she said no picture. And my camera didn't work, so now I knew that God was going to hit a weird lightning bolt, so I left her out there. But when I went to the car, she called me back. She gave me 10 letters. What are these, pray tell? These are letters of encouragement to my sisters who man the AIDS hospices in Washington and New York, San Francisco, and Chicago. Women who had taken vows of poverty to serve the very dying and the destitute, she wanted to motivate from half a world away. I'm thinking to myself, I don't have a picture. Now you're giving me letters, which means I'm out of the postage as well. But I knew I was carrying holy cargo. That plane was going to go safe. When I arrived in the United States, it dawned on me. That's what selling is. See, selling is encouraging people to continue to do a task long after they have already agreed to do it. She was motivating these people from half a world away, encouraging them. That was the day my desire was born to do something unique. I'll fast forward. I started a foundation to go to India and offer principles that people in India will never get to learn because they can't go to events like this. They are poor, they live in the slums. But it was because of Mother Teresa's influence in my life in 1995 that allowed me to start a foundation in 2008 and go serve the poor in the very land that sent me to the West to become prosperous. That is part of understanding that the head and the heart have always got to connect. Selling is not what you do for someone, it's not what you do to someone, it's what you do for someone. Principle number 3, people don't buy for your reasons, they buy for their reasons. You can have the most sophisticated sales talk, but it doesn't matter. You have to be willing to understand. So let me give this to you in a personal way. How many of you are married? How many of you don't want to talk about it? Okay, just check it. Now, when I went to business school in 1982, on August 16, I saw the most beautiful girl in line registering for some courses. Immediately, I changed my idea of what I wanted to major in and started registering for all the classes she was registering for. And I decided to try my sales technique long before I was a professional. Every hour when the class bell rang, I went up to her and said, "Will you marry me?" Every hour, like clockwork, she rejected me. She says no. An hour later, I would come back with new information, that's what a good salesperson does, and say, "Will you marry me?" She said no. For 11 months, on the hour, every hour, I asked this girl to marry me. She said no. On December 23rd of 1983, she said yes. I said, "Yes what?" I had forgotten the question. Now that same girl who fended off my ridiculous proposal, most unromantic in all of human history, has been Mrs. Dhanam for the last 28 years. If you ask her today why she said yes, she said 2 reasons. One is I knew he would be successful as a salesman because he was persistent. But second, I wanted to prevent any other woman from having the misery of being with him. See, the head and the heart are vital in this process. Now folks, whether you're selling a product, a service, we are all in sales. Humanity since the beginning of time has tried to share the gospel of Christ, has tried to share theology and physiology, zoology and biology, anthropology and psychology. We are all selling, whether it's in our relationships. For those of you who are parents, we're selling to our children. Now, many of you mothers will disagree with this, but most of you have become your mother. When you were growing up, you promised yourself you would never be like them. The moment you had a child, you're exactly like them. First thing you tell your kid, look at me when I'm talking to you. Don't say anything, speak up. How can you not say anything and speak up? Then you make ridiculous arguments. This more, then it's going to hurt you. If it's going to hurt you more than it's going, why is their bottom red? Because we do not understand one very simple principle. What you believe is very different from how you act. Who you are is very different from what you do. We are designed by creators to be a 24-hour champion. For 8 to 10 hours of the day, we have to practice the skill that allows us to make a living. But for the balance of the time, we have to invest in the will that allows us to shape a life. When will and skill come together for the very first time on God's green earth, you will have unleashed that 24-hour champion. How did the poet put it, William Blake? This eyes-dim windows of the sword distorts the heavens from pole to pole and goads us to believe a lie when we see with and not through the eye. What do you mean? See, we are conditioned as a society to be voyeuristic. We look at things and think with our head. We don't look through things and act with our heart. We are supposed to actually be ethically in charge of our actions. And that's why the head and the heart is important in any business. Now, I speak to CEOs of companies. My latest book has been authored by someone you may know. His name is Rick Beluso. The name may not be important. But he ran a small company one time as its president. The company is known as Microsoft. When I began as a friend of his 10 years ago, I never imagined that one day this man who ran billion-dollar companies would agree to write a book with me. But when he was asked, why did you write a book with Krish, he said, Krish is the only person who never came to me wanting something from me. He came to me every day wanting to give me something. Now, I could not have given him anything financially. Let me explain. When I went to his house to write the book, we were pulling up on the side of the hill in Santa Rosa, California. And I looked up and I saw these magnificent Italian villas, huge homes. Rick said, that's my house. I said, which one? He said, all of it. That's how rich he was in terms of wealth. Money is not everything, folks, but it ranks reasonably close to oxygen. When you need it, there is no substitute. But money bought me a house. Actually, it bought me two. It'll never buy me a home with laughter. Money bought me a bed. It'll never buy me a good night's sleep. Money bought me a companion. It won't buy me a friend for life. It bought me a good time. It won't buy me peace of mind. I like the things money will buy. I've traveled much of the free world in front of the plane. I've done some amazing things. I've been on 6 continents, 55 countries. I've snorkeled the outer barrier, the Great Barrier Reef. I've sailed through the Panama Canal. I watched the mist settle on Lake Balaton in Hungary. I saw Paris from the 3rd level of the Eiffel Tower. I projected my voice in Athens, Greece, where oratorical mastery is being to have begun. And I've ridden horseback on the Giza Plateau with the pyramids of the backdrop. And all of those things cost money. But I would trade all of that to sit with my boy and watch him eat popcorn while we share a movie. You know why? There is a limit to what you can imagine. There's a difference. Now, do we need it? Yes. Do we want more of it? Yes. But the reality is, unless that head and the heart is connected, you won't know how to enjoy it. I've had some amazing experiences that cost money. But I've had some amazing experiences that all the money in the world can buy. And you can have it all. If you desire to become that kind of person that operates in that business sphere by realizing that the head and the heart have to be connected and you have to want to be that 24-hour champion. Win every single day. Someone asked me one time, they said, Mr. Dhanam, when you die, what do you want said at your funeral? First thing I want the pastor to say, he's still moving. Because I'm not ready to die. But I want you to hear proud husband, loving father. I want to hear well done, my good and faithful servant. Because I can give you without any fear of error the next story. It's hard to tell. Remember, I said I'm a philosopher. See, I was riding the height of corporate glory. I was winning sales contests. And one day when I came home, my son had taken critically ill. And the sight that greeted me sickened me. Because there's nothing I could do at that point to prevent the pain that my bride was feeling. And I made her a promise. I said, not only will I work hard to make us a good living, but I will also die doubly hard to make us a good life. And as a result of it, we can enjoy the things that cost money. Folks, I have traveled everywhere. I started traveling when my boy was 3 months old. Technically, according to society, I have failed as a father. But when my boy went to college, he had to write an essay. And the essay was, who is the most influential man in your life? Without batting an eyelid, young Nick said, my daddy. How can it be? I've never been there. His mama raised him. I was out traveling the world, sharing the gospel, spreading the good news, doing corporate events, being successful. His mother raised him. But how can I be the most influential person? Here's what the boy writes. He says, the reason I choose my father is, even though my father has been gone most of my life, he's tried the best he could. But the 2 reasons I picked my daddy is because of his unwavering love for his Creator God and his undeniable faith and love for my mama. If I had that kind of faith, he said, if I can have that kind of faith for God and that kind of love for family, my life should be okay. See, it's not complicated. We make it complicated. Why? When we fail, not if, we can blame the system. We can blame society. We can blame the government. We can blame corruption. We can blame the department head. We can blame the boss. If they are with you, don't point. The fourth reason that really helps in this profession that I love so much is this. Customers don't buy your products. They buy what your products and services will do for them. They are more interested in the end game. By the same token, you make more money through providing solutions than you do by selling products. But it's a hard thing to wrap ourselves around. If you're selling a water filter or a Parker pen, you are very confident that you're selling a pen. When I first went to work for Mr. Ziegler in sales, I was not successful. Well, I was. I didn't sell a lot. I sold my car. I sold my furniture. I sold a lot of stuff in the house, but I was not selling seminar seats. So he called me and he asked me, he says, why are you not successful? I said, I'm selling books, I'm selling tapes, I'm selling seminar seats, and I'm doing everything you train me to. He said, son, we're not in the seminar business, we're in the life change business. See, the day I began to believe that I was not selling a tape, but I was selling someone the ability to listen to it, internalize it, personalize it, and vocalize it so they could rationalize it, my life began to take a different trajectory. When I began to realize I was in the helping business, it became easy. See, I'm not a writer. I've written 6 books, but I'm not a writer. I'm not a speaker. I do 100 events a year, and I have for the last 20 years. People always say, what are you? I'm Anila's husband and Nick's dad. That's who I am. Everything else is what I do. When you realize these subtleties, life becomes easy. See, someone asked me one time, do you give any relationship advice? I said, like how? He said, well, how often should I tell my wife I love her? I said, before somebody else does. It's not complicated. Marriage is grand. Divorce is 100 grand. But why are our relationships failing? Why is there incidences of abuse in society? It is not because we can't control ourselves. We are all like the man, the farmer who said, Lord, I don't want all of the land, just what's next to mine. That goes for a while. See, Mother Teresa said, John Wesley, the great preacher, said, make all you can, save all you can, give all you can. It is okay to have excess if you understand that you control the excess. If the excess controls you, then money makes an incredible partner. It makes a horrible master. And when you understand that, you realize you're in the solution business. I love how people tell me, well, I'm waiting for all my ducks to line up. When all your ducks line up, you have a lot of ducks. It doesn't change anything. So first principle was selling is a process, not an event. Second principle is selling is a transference of feeling. Third principle was customers buy for their reasons, not yours. Fourth principle, you make more money providing solutions than you do selling product. But here's the most important part of the profession. How do you sell? Trust. See, trust equals MET, expectations over a period of time. If you can consistently meet your own expectations and the expectations of everybody else over a period of time, you will be successful. But Dr. Joyce Brothers said you cannot consistently perform in a manner inconsistent with the way you see yourself. It's very easy to hide behind culture. It's very easy to hide behind tradition. In fact, one of the principles I teach is tradition is not a strategy, it's just a good foundation. Tradition is not a strategy. My mother, traditionally, was married to my father when she was 14. That doesn't make for a good strategy. It's tradition. She went to live with Pop when she was 15. Brother at 16. Me at 19. By the time she was 19, this 8th grade dropout had her lot written in life. She was going to be another statistic of the Indian culture. A young bride betrothed to a man, and she was going to go from being a girl to a mother and never had a chance to be a lady. Now, when my mother comes to America, for some reason, most of the people who come from different cultures to America, we have to take them to the mall. Like you don't have malls here. And we take my mom to the mall there. My mom wears a sari. For those of you who know, it's that 6-yard wrap. It has no shape, no form. It looks like a moving curtain. Her hair is shocking white. She has never chosen to color it because my mother was always beautiful from 14 to my dad. That's it. She never had to appeal to anybody else. She walks around in that 6-yard wrap with her shocking white hair. But because we are parading around in the mall, we put sneakers on her feet. Now, I don't know, that's the most ridiculous fashion faux pas you can make in any culture. Stick sneakers on someone and walk them in the mall. Now, when my mother is walking through the mall, she is unnatural, she's uncomfortable, she's not in her domicile, but she's doing it because she wants her son to be happy and her husband who's out shopping. Now at that time, this 6'1" boy puts his arm around his mother. You know why? She's not mom. She gave birth to me. Tradition may say that you can't do that. Culture may reject it. Mall etiquette may prevent it. But she is now comfortable in my arms because there's not a mother on planet Earth who doesn't want her boy to hold her. So I hold my mom, and she's comfortable. Now, initially, she would try to get away from me. Because 35 years of tradition said it's not cool. Now my mom's comfortable. So I said, let me see if I can try it in Dallas, Texas. Maybe I can try it in India. So in my hometown, I put my arm around my mother, and she's suddenly going away after being really comfortable. So I said, Mom, what's wrong? She said, we are walking in front of your father's older brother's house. What will he say? I said, if he says anything, I'm going to tell him to get his own mother. Tradition is just a foundation. It's not a strategy. But here's the beautiful part of that love story of now almost 60 years. At the age of 75, my daddy went back to the university and began his master's degree, and at the age of 77, he got his master's, graduating to the top of his class. At the age of 80, my father has begun his PhD studies. So my father has a PhD, which will be a real doctor. I have two. Mine stands for Please Help Daddy, and the other is Partial Head Damage. My mother was so inspired by my dad that she went back. And at the age of 72, Mama got her master's 2 weeks ago. See, they defied tradition. When they asked my father, why did you do it? He said, when my obligations to others finish, my obligations to my dreams remain. When my obligations to others finish, my obligations to my dreams remain. Now, when I brought my parents to India on the last trip, I took them on a cruise. The sweetest thing was to watch this man and this woman do their homework on the cruise. See, my mother still studies in the local language, so my dad reads her books in English and then verbally translates it, and then mom takes the notes in her language. This is in addition to his master's in philosophy. He helped her get through her master's in history. Folks, love is spelled P-I-M-E. Love is spelled time. And if the man of 79 and the woman of 72 who are now retired and in their golden years can go back, someone asked my father, Mr. Dhanam, you'll be 83 by the time you finish your PhD. He said, how old will I be if I didn't do it? I'll still be 83. So why are we so unfortunate in our lives? Why are our passions withering away? Because success is not a group exercise. Success is not who you are in relation to the person sitting next to you. Success is who you are in relation to where you began and what you began with. Success then, my friends, is not a destination. It is an ongoing journey. Dr. Ravi Zacharias says there are only 4 questions we need answered. Origin, where do I come from? Morality, is there a right and a wrong? Purpose, what am I doing here? And destiny, where am I going? And we confuse it. Raise your right hand for me as high as it will go. Now raise it a little bit higher. Why don't you do that to begin with? I said as high as it will go. We all save a little bit for a rainy day that never comes. See, 97% of the people in this world operate in the comfort zone. 3% of the people in this world operate in the effective zone. The difference between comfort and effectiveness is called growth, and growth is uncomfortable. See, today as you listen to the experts before, people who have made large sums of money in investments in their businesses, when they're giving you advice, they're giving you advice based on what they have already tried and proved. But you need to understand something. If you try something you've never tried before, and you fall flat on your face, the worst you'll do is break even. You can't lose by trying. In fact, let me go one step further. Failure is an event. It has never been a person. You can fail at something. You cannot fail as someone. Billy Graham was asked, the lady who sang at Billy Graham Crusade, Ethel Waters, was asked this question. What made Billy Graham so great? You see, Billy Graham, who just celebrated his 95th birthday, has been consistently voted in the top 10 most admired people for 50 years. So she said, what made Billy so great? I love her answer. Honey, God don't sponsor no junk. See, if you believe within your heart that you were created for a purpose, designed for accomplishment, and endowed with the seeds of greatness, something miraculous will begin to transform. Now, motivation is not grinning from year to year like you've eaten a banana sideways. That's insanity. In fact, most people who are grinning for no reason, I think they're on drugs. But have a little pep in your step, a little bounce to your abs. I can tell you without any fear of error, if it wasn't for that woman that God placed in my life 28 years ago, who prayed for me every night and was my cheerleader every day, I would not be your speaker today. If you really do believe that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But you need to have an inner circle that helps you succeed. Don't do it alone. Every great teacher is looking for a great student. Become a great student to a great teacher. The great Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes once said, the greatest tragedy of all is not the loss of natural resources, though that is a great tragedy. The greatest tragedy of all is the loss of human resources, because most people will go to their grave with their finest music still within them. You can't take any of your talent. In fact, let me give you one other bit of advice. Talent is from God. Strength is man manifested. Most people fail to exercise their talent because they hung around with the wrong people who could never give them strength. Talent is from God. If I believed that speaking was a gift that I had in some way, but I hung around with a bunch of people who only complained, I would not have had the success I did. But I chose to hang around with people like Zig Ziglar who were in a different league. But rather than look at the boundaries that prevented this kid from India who was an immigrant with an accent to not be around the greats, I chose to stand around them so that one day the call will come. And I remember it as sure as the sun will rise tomorrow. I was sitting in my house in Dallas, Texas. Mr. Ziegler had just had major surgery, which means he could not make the next engagement he had already committed to. And my phone rings. It's my hero. He said, "Son, are you ready? I have prepared you for a moment such as this." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, I can't do this engagement day after tomorrow." And I told the sponsors that I have trained the boy who will today come and do it. I said, "Mr. Ziegler, I can never replace you." He said, "Nobody can. You're just filling in for me." I walked out in front of a crowd of 4,000 people and the MC said, "Mr. Ziegler is not here," and they started to boo. And I felt horrible. I went back, done a decent job, I think, because they invited me again. And I still remember today how that feeling was, waiting 7 years for that moment. And my career took off like a rocket. In the year 2005, I had the privilege of taking Mr. C to India, the land of my birth. Tough corporate executives who would not have given me the time of day were now applauding me because I was standing next to a wizard. They had given me affiliation proxy success. When the seminar was over, Mr. Ziegler called me to the front. He put his arm around me, and here's how he addressed the people of India. He said, "You sent me a boy who was scared. I bring you back a man who is my legacy." Folks, dreams don't care who have them. Dreams don't care who have them. But in order to have that success, that desire to succeed, whether it's a product or a sale or whatever it is, understand this, that you have to have an insulation about you and realize that other people's opinion of you doesn't really matter. Your opinion of yourself matters more. Other people's opinion of you doesn't really matter. Your opinion of you matters the most. I was speaking in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'd just done a seminar for a Fortune 500 company. I was standing in the airport hotel waiting for the shuttle. I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I was not wearing a suit like I usually do. The lady who was standing next to me thought I was a bellboy. So when I put my bags in the van, she used her nose, which doubled as a pointer, and asked me to put her bags in the van, which I did. Baggage handling is easy. See, my daddy taught me a long time ago, be in a job, well, big or small, do it well or not at all. Your word is your bond. If your word's no good, you're no good. So I picked up her bags and put them in the van. The gentleman who was standing next to her now wanted to get involved in this little immigrant episode. So he asked me to put his bags in the van, which I did. Now folks, every good task deserves a reward. I'm a salesman. Most of you know what I did next. I asked for a tip. The lady gave me a buck and change. The guy gave me a buck and change. They were ignorant. I made $3. Amazing. When I got in the van, the gentleman realized he had made a mistake. He now realized I was a traveler. He said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I said, "You're not getting your money back." At which point he said the words that make the journey possible and the humanity bearable. He said, "I wish all my employees had your distinct ability to navigate." Folks, that's all we do every day. When you wake up in the morning, you have to believe that you were created for a purpose, endowed with something great, and go ahead and fulfill that destiny. I'm going to close like I always do by saying, folks, I've literally traveled the world and the 7 seas. I've been on my highs, and many a night I wept on my knees. But of all the groups I've spoken to, the most humbled I felt is my time with you. I'm Manila's husband and Nick's dad, saying thank you for inviting me down here.
And a warm round of applause for Mr. Krish Dhanam. Wow, the next person who's going to do the sharing is going to have a pretty tough time, and it's my job to introduce him. Okay, so the next sharer is a young business.